It's Sticky Tricky Law!
On the 31st of January 2020, the UK formally withdrew from the European Union following the ratification or conclusion of the withdrawal agreement between the UK and the EU. The UK is no longer an EU member state. A transition period began on the 1st of February, which is currently scheduled to end on the 31st of December 2020. During this transition period, the UK is still part of the EU single market and customs union, and will continue to apply EU laws as if it were a member state, including ones that came into force during the transition period. This means that goods, people, capital and services can cross borders between the UK and the EU in the same way as before, operating under the same EU rules. During the transition period, the UK and EU are expected to negotiate and conclude an agreement on their future relationship. The future relationship must include many more and more complicated issues. Primarily how goods and services will be traded between the UK and the 27 EU countries. One of the most difficult issues to resolve concerns regulatory divergence, or where the EU and the UK have different rules and standards, and how to ensure a level playing field to guarantee fair competition between businesses. The EU wants the UK to maintain the same standards, or closely similar standards, for example in the areas of environmental, worker and consumer protections. The UK does not want to make that commitment so that it can have more freedom to set its own standards. Where there is significant regulatory divergence or differing standards between the UK and the EU, this creates a problem for the possibility of reaching an agreement on mutual recognition. Mutual recognition is a principle of EU law which states that goods which are lawfully sold in one EU member state can be lawfully sold in another. With some exception for public health, safety and the environment, goods lawfully sold in one country must be recognised even where they do not match the local technical rules of the other country. Without the principle of mutual recognition, or a mutual recognition agreement, goods must match the local technical requirements of each country in which they wish to trade. This makes it harder for businesses to compete, as it is more expensive to match products to varying and different standards across countries. While there is a principle of mutual recognition between all EU member states, this is not the case for countries which trade with the EU. All goods entering the single market from outside of the EU must match EU requirements and standards, unless there is a mutual recognition agreement. Finding agreement on these issues will be a key challenge for the future relationship between the UK and the EU.